Hello again, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Denton County Sheriff Tracy Murphree. Thank you for being here, Sheriff Murphree.
Thank you for having me.
I want to get right into human trafficking, which is often called a modern-day form of slavery and usually involves commercial sexual exploitation or forced labor. How often does the Sheriff Department come across this?
You know, it's not very often, but way too often than we should. And you know, recently we had an arrest of a guy here in Denton who was involved in sex trafficking of a young girl, and turns out she'd been a runaway from another state and had been with him for over 2 years. And he was prostituting her out locally and taking her around the Metroplex. Also recently we did a sting of online solicitation of a minor where we had 13 guys show up thinking they were there to have sex with a minor. And that can very quickly turn into a human trafficking issue.
That's great that you have those type of operations, because that's how they get to people on the internet, right? And they
Yes.
they think they're talking to a 13-year-old or something, and these perverts want to go and meet with them. And the more publicity you get to arrest these guys, the less chance they're going to be trying that. And I think that's wonderful, those type of arrests. What are the age range of the women trafficked?
It runs the gamut of ages, because you have these perverts and these pedophiles. They want to engage in sex with young girls, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And then it runs the gamut all the way up to adult females, many who start out as juveniles and continue in this life into adulthood. And there's really no age range. It's only limited to the perversions of the men who want to engage in this.
Yeah, and very often they are looking for the younger the better.
Yes, they are, unfortunately.
Are these women generally sold into prostitution?
What we'll do is they're rented, basically. These young runaways, or they'll find these troubled young girls, and these pimps become their only lifeline for food, for shelter, and they basically brainwash them. And then once they become totally dependent on them, you know, then they send them out to make money with sex.
Now they're smuggled across the border very often, right?
There are many that are smuggled across the border, and that makes it even more difficult, because not only are they in this life, but they're here illegally. They're scared to reach out for help. They're scared that they're being told all the time that, hey, you're the one that's going to jail, not me. They're going to send you back. And
Yeah,
so
they're brainwashed.
They're brainwashed, and
yeah.
it makes it even more difficult.
So it's hard to, but they're actually being sold to buyers. I mean, people are actually buying people, like in
Yes,
in slavery.
it's modern day slavery.
Yeah.
You're being bought and sold.
And in these cases, the seller and the buyer are both guilty of felonies.
Absolutely, yes. The seller is guilty of doing this, and the buyer is just as guilty. They are all part of the same process.
The people who engage in human trafficking are both male and female, correct?
Yes, it knows no gender. You have a lot of times you'll have a pimp who had a young girl working for him who's matured, who now kind of runs the household, as you will, and becomes a female presence there, what makes it easier to control the younger females.
Now these are captives or slaves are in homes throughout Texas. Let's say they're brought across and they're being pimped out of homes or sold out of homes. What should neighbors look for as signs that human trafficking might be occurring?
Yeah, if you think something's wrong, if something doesn't feel right, odds are it probably isn't. I mean, if these girls are in these homes and you very seldom see them outside, or you see traffic coming in and out of the homes, or just something that piques your interest, let us know. Contact law enforcement. We would rather check it out and nothing be wrong than you be afraid to say something and these women continue to be used this way.
So something that really looks unusual to you in the neighborhood. It's always good to have people who are aware of what's going on around them.
Absolutely.
Check that out. If you see bruises, unusual situations, why not call and at least have it checked out? You could be saving lives.
Absolutely, you could.
What are the penalties for human trafficking?
It ranges depending on you know, how they do it, but many of them are first-degree felonies where you can spend the rest of your life in prison. And You know, these guys we got on this online solicitation, that's a 3rd-degree felony, so they could do prison time simply showing up thinking they're going to have sex with these young folks. It's important that we enforce these laws, and it's important that we prosecute these offenses as much as we can.
And by the way, President Trump has recently signed a human trafficking legislation, so
yes.
He's also getting stronger on this. Let's get into drug trafficking, which is killing thousands of Americans every year. Where do most of the drugs come from? Is I-35 one of the routes, a major route?
I-35 is a major route. I mean, you can get on 35 and go to the border. And that's where the drugs are coming from. They're being smuggled across the Mexican border. Our borders are porous, they're wide open, and they're being smuggled into California, into Arizona, and into Mexico, into Texas, and they're being distributed throughout the United States.
Your department recently had a major drug bust. I think it was like 48 pounds of, was it heroin?
It was cocaine.
Cocaine?
We had a guy coming from California to Florida and had false compartments in his vehicle. And in those false compartments were 48 pounds of cocaine. And what that tells me is if it's easier to get cocaine from California and drive it across country to Florida than it is to get it directly to Florida, we've got a border problem.
Oh, so. And so do you think Texas needs a wall on the border?
Absolutely. We need a wall, we need barriers, we need to be able to control who's coming into this country. I am 100% for legal immigration into this country.
Sure.
But what's happening on the border, the drugs are flowing across. We have these countries who are pushing basically a lot of their criminals along with these families to get them out of their country and get them into our country. And it's taken a toll on the United States and the money spent on it and the people dying of the drugs. And if we could build that wall, funnel these folks to a location where we can evaluate them and let them legally come in, I'm all for that. But let's protect our country.
Sure. Yeah, we hardly can call ourselves a sovereign nation if we have porous borders like this.
Absolutely.
And people running across. We hear a lot about fentanyl.
Yes.
It's a legal synthetic opioid that is 80 to 100 times stronger than morphine. Yet it is also made illegally and mixed with heroin and cocaine. Do you come across this often?
We have come across it not very often, but we're about to be seeing a whole lot of it. And the reason we're seeing a whole lot of it is the profitability of it. You can take, I have this chart here if you'd like to see it. A lot of these chemicals and the fentanyl is coming out of China, and it's going either directly to the United States. Most of it's going into Mexico. You can take $87 worth of a chemical, ship it to Mexico where they mix it with other chemicals, and that'll cost you $810 for 25 grams of fentanyl. And what they do is press this fentanyl into pills, put it into heroin, cocaine, and off that $810 investment for 25 grams, you can make $800,000.
Look at the profit in that. You don't know. No wonder these people are doing what they're doing. That
1 kilo of fentanyl will get you the same amount of money as 50 kilos of heroin. So what's easier to smuggle across? A couple of backpacks with 4 or 5 kilos, or a truck with 100 kilos of heroin.
And this fentanyl is very lethal if
It
used
is
incorrectly.
extremely deadly. If you will look here, Bob, this is a penny. And this is a blown up picture of a penny. And here to the right, you can see these white grains. That is a lethal dose.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of grains of sand.
It's like little bitty salt grains, and that is a lethal dose. Compare that to a lethal dose of heroin, and then a lethal dose of fentanyl. And so you've got these guys in these labs making these fake Oxycontin pills, making these fake hydrocodone pills, and putting fentanyl in it. You're trusting your life to a guy who's probably making $2 an hour in the pill press on being precise on the amount of milligrams, 1/1000th of a gram into these pills. And you're betting your life on that when you take these.
You have here an opioid overdose kit. Is this something that all of the law enforcement people are using?
Yes, this is coming to this is Narcan. What Narcan does, it reverses the effects of opioid. And I won't open all this up, but it's sprayed in the nasal. There are also some that are injectable that some of the officers carry. We carry these for two reasons. First and foremost, when these officers are searching vehicles, they could come in contact with this. And it'll hit you immediately and you can go down. So we need these to make sure our officers are safe. Also,
So they're all trained in using this?
Yes. Also, if there's a citizen that needs it, we'll use that on them as well to try to save their life.
Wonderful. That's terrific. All right, we're about to wrap up, but before we go, I just want to mention that on February 13th at noon, that's Wednesday of next week, Sheriff Murphree will be the featured speaker at the Texas Strong Republican Women meeting at the Southwest Denton County Courthouse, 6200 Canyon Falls Drive in Flower Mound. And that information is in the written portion of this interview as well. So it went so fast, Sheriff Murphree, and I thank you sincerely for coming over and helping me to get this information out to the public. This is very important. And thanks for all that you do and all law enforcement officers do, risking your lives every day to protect ours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching.